when we played the state tournament kids or the high state tournament teams, oh yeah, we was like, man, we about to go out here and kick their ass.
Watching a scene from Final Destination where you could see the water approaching the electrical socket, and you're like, no, don't walk over that way.
And I got Embiid on my hip, and Russ stops on the dime, pull up mid-range. Russ got a pretty good mid-range.
I'm starting to get Stockholm Syndrome here, man.
Call the mechanic, because the car got stalled in the garage.
I know you're up to some shit when you start explaining what the player did before you actually name him, and you're like trying to do a sales pitch. All right? Another day, another dollar. Here with Rasheed Wallace. I have lost track.
Way to make him holler.
I have lost track of what episode number we are on. I felt like this would happen after episode 5 or 6, but we'll just call it episode 10. We hope you guys enjoyed a live edition of the program in which the stars aligned that Rasheed was in Los Angeles. We were able to kick it together. Nice to put a face to the name that I'm a real person. Rasheed is, in fact, a real person. And this show's good as is, but there's always a natural chemistry when you meet someone in person for the first time and you got the whole shoot set up. So hopefully we'll get to do stuff like that in the future. But we will get back to our I'm going to put it in quotes, structured program here that you guys are so used to consuming. And as always, we like to lead off our episodes with what I call a moment in time. We have now being this far into the season, I believe I've burned through all of the obvious moments that Rasheed's honestly probably tired of talking about because he goes on other podcasts and other shows. And the first thing they're going to ask him about is getting teed up in the Portland game or ball don't lie. But this is different. This is a different show because we have quantity, and now that relationships getting better, I can start digging a little bit further down the rabbit hole. So Rasheed, long story short, today's moment in time is December of 1993. This should be an obvious one.
Oh, I was still in high school.
You're damn right you're still in high school, and we found the tapes of it. If you are ever curious as to someone that's back in the day in the 90s before Twitter, before social media, when they had hype coming out of high school into college, you're probably asking yourself, well, what did they look like in comparison to their competition? What you are witnessing now is Rasheed Wallace out there in high school just throwing down all sorts. Look at that. This poor soul that tried to jump with him. Rasheed, take me through this day, take me through this game, and what it was like to run the court as just this unicorn of basketball in this era.
Well, it's the funny thing about it, because we were just mentioning about rivals a second ago. So this is at Reading High, if I'm not mistaken. It was my senior year. So it was kind of sort of a rivalry because that's where Donyell Marshall, who went to UConn and played in the NBA for some years, I think won a title with Cleveland. That's where he went to high school at. So it was always, even though he's a little bit older than me, I think by like a year or two, it was always some type of comparison between us, like, oh, who was better, power forward, this and that. But I think we played two different positions. You know, he was more of a small forward / power forward. He put the ball on the floor. And me, in high school, I was a strict power forward / center. So my coach didn't allow me to put the ball on the floor unless it was with a post move, opposing to more facing the basket. So we squared off the first time. And, you know, we kicked Reading's ass. And then this was the second one. They called us back up. They felt as though that they had a good team. Ooh. And we came along. So my senior year, we won 31-0. My junior and senior year in high school, mainly more my senior year, and I only played the first and third quarter. I only averaged like about maybe 12 or 14 points in those two quarters. But we had a great team. We were number one in the state, even though we weren't allowed back then to compete in the state tournament because we were part of the Philadelphia Public League. And they play in the state tournament now in the Philadelphia Public League. But back then when I was coming up, they didn't because of something that happened prior. So we were always still ranked number one in the state. And along with our rival high school, they were ranked right there with us in the state. So when we played the state tournament kids or the high state tournament teams, oh yeah, we was like, man, we about to go out here and kick their ass. And then that was like I said, my senior year. So I only played the first and the third quarter, and the guy who played in the second and fourth quarter, he averaged like 20, 22 points, everything. So our team, we had height, guys was in it. We was dogs. We laid our hat on defense, and man, them was the good years right there, that high school time, man. That's when I was a good athlete, could run and jump.
So two things. For those of you that watched our previous live show, one of the questions I asked Rasheed about was based on a story I heard from Scott Pollard about how an entire AAU camp had to change their rebounding strategy because Rasheed Wallace would keep the ball above his head, and as a result, it was impossible for quite literally anyone on the floor to rebound. And what did we see in those highlights as Rasheed was talking there? There's 3 different moments of him catching the ball either in transition or on an offensive rebound, and the ball, he's holding it as high as he can possibly hold it. How you have that naturally built in to your basketball portfolio is such a difference, but it's obvious. But people don't do it. They bring the ball down where guards can come down and snatch it. And most of those highlights right there, you've got the ball as high above your head as you possibly could. And Rasheed told the story of how one of his coaches would make him run a mile with the ball above his head so he wouldn't forget. And it's those little things, man. If you're watching this as an aspiring player that's trying to make the league, or maybe you're a parent that's trying to teach a kid, Rasheed Wallace, there's a lot of tall people on this planet, but there's a noticeable difference when that skill is hammered in there. Now, the second part of this observation is you have to know, especially at that age. You're a teenager. You have so much power, man. You have over the crowd, over the women at high school, over the other team. You're out here doing tip slams on just normal people's heads. What's it like to be that dominant at that level? Is it just fun as shit? Because it's okay if the answer is that simple.
Oh yeah, it's definitely fun. No doubt about it. But the what makes it even better was when I was going up against my rivals, or if I was at a basketball camp or something. Now I'm going up against another power forward or center who's the shit in their neighborhood, at their school. So that's what I always like, that whole camaraderie thing. Let's go ahead and battle. Let's go ahead and bang heads, you know what I'm saying, and get that out there. Let's have it. I was never one to back away from a challenge, period. So if you were, no matter if you was a guard, I'm like, okay, number 1 guard in the country, number 2 guard in the country, whatever it may have been, or a big man, power forward, whatever. Yeah, I always took that challenge right there. Loved it since high school because that's what I was born and bred on. Because I think that's kind of sort of comes from the one-on-one with the selfish events with track. Because that's, like, as I said, that's my first love before I started even thinking about basketball. So that one-on-one, like that camaraderie, now I'm going against the best right here. You know what I'm saying? You're out there every week in these track meets and you're going against not necessarily the lower kids, you're going against this kid right next to you in time. So carry that over to basketball. Now, if I'm going against a guy who's ranked another great power forward in the city or the state or the country or even the world on that any level, high school, collegiate, or NBA, yeah, I'm going to step up to that challenge. No doubt about it. And that's what we did in high school.
That was going to answer my follow-up question, which you don't need to do. But once you get an offer from Carolina and you're still playing games, is there a natural tendency to kind of sit on it, knowing like I don't want to mess this up and get hurt? But it sounds like the answer is no. We came to compete, and that's not the way that these guys that make it to this point think. Like, all right, I made it here, I'll just coast. Maybe more so in the NFL because it's such physical contact, and you want to make sure that you get your guarantee. That's more a product of the business. That's based on like the guarantees with the contracts and stuff like that. So I understand that, but good to know. Nice. It's always nice to go back in time a little bit with Sheed and get the mentality of someone that was so highly regarded without the likes of a mixtape and social media, and how long it took me to find this footage of. I don't know if you had seen that, but I'll keep digging for stuff like that. So let's now transition to current times and current events here. And first on the docket, I want to talk about what is. Since we last spoke, there has been a multiple examples, sample size, if you will, of final second situations in the NBA in which it's a one-possession game. and the team that is down in points, 1, 2, let's call it 1 or 2 because 3 is a different story because you'll see teams foul. But in this case, 1 or 2, it was the Knicks and the Lakers that their coaches elected not to call a timeout off a rebound and let the play transpire in transition. Both of which resulted in their teams missing a shot and losing the game. So like anything else, Sheed, in the social media sports world that we live in, if something doesn't work, it becomes very easy for people behind a keyboard to play Monday morning quarterback or backseat driver and say, why didn't you call a timeout? As someone that has played and maybe grown frustrated with a coach for not calling a timeout, or been in a position that, oh my God, like this is chaos, I got the ball and I need to shoot it, which do you prefer? And which do you think, if you did them 100 times, would ultimately be what's considered plus estimated value, or wins at least 51 times out of 100?
Well, what it is, you're going off of the feel of the game. You got to ride with the players because, number one, they're the ones out there. Even though as that coach, I don't care if you're a first-year coach or if you're a 25th-year coach. It don't matter. You got to ride the wave of that player or the players. So here's why it goes to the point of like where coaches don't call that timeout. So let's say that all night we've been getting some good looks, some good buckets, especially fast break points. So now we're in transition. So as you said, it's just a matter of you down 1 or 2 points where you don't necessarily need a 3. I just need me a bucket, no matter if it's the layup, jump shot, whatever. I'm not necessarily looking for the 3. But if throughout that game, let's say your offense was stagnant, where it's like you had more turnovers than often, your guys were making some more fucked up passes and just having a bad night with moving the ball, all right, that's when you call that timeout and you have to go to try to set up a play, something that you think has been working for you, either the game or, you might have that hidden gem up there up your sleeve. But that's when coaches usually call a timeout more, opposing to letting them run. Now, I'm for both of them, to be honest. Because, again, you let them run when the players feel it. And as that coach, like, all right, we have been getting a lot of good fast break points tonight. They haven't been able to get back. And if they have been able to get back, at some point with the matchups, we have advantage of the mismatch. So that's where you got to go with it. And then, it's on that aggressive play of that player, depending on the situation. Try to get to the line, get to the hole, get fouled. But you definitely got to make the bucket because it's only, as you said, seconds left on that clock, and it's the last shot for it. So now when you do the one with the timeout, okay, that's when you're setting up that play. So who's been scoring for us tonight? Is it Jay Randall? Is it Brunson? Is it RJ? Who's pretty much been getting buckets for us tonight that came with a little bit of ease? That's who you're going to set the play up for, no matter who it is. Okay, we're going to come off, depending on the time also. If it's like enough time where you can run maybe a pick or two or have a pass or two, let's say like 5-6 seconds on the clock, I'm going to go for the guy who has the hot hand or who scored for us the most that night, no matter if it's the guard, the forward, the center, whoever. That's what I'm going to go. And make or miss, I'm living with it. Because it's the same way. If we push the ball, make or miss, you got to live with it.
The end result of these two examples, the reason why Knicks fans weren't calling for Thibodeau's job is because Jalen ultimately got a great look at the rim. It was wide open, and it was a chance to win if it goes in. I don't like if Thibodeau if he had 10 chances to draw up a play, I don't think 5 of the times he gets Jalen a look as good as he got, and you live. Yeah, you live with the result, but also to your point, time matters as well because when Jalen got it, there was less than 10 seconds. There was chaos on defense, scrambling who's got who. They're trying to prevent an alley-oop as well, and they ended up getting a good look as a result of it. Now on the Lakers side, since there was more time on the clock, all right, Like Westbrook gets the rebound after a nice defensive possession. He also had a really good night that night, triple-double off the bench. So it's not like he was off and, trying to make up for anything. Darvin Ham, to your point, may have been feeling the moment that, all right, Russ has earned this and he looks like he wants it, so I'm going to let it play out. And this is part of the rapport and chemistry that's necessary between coaches and their players, because you calling a timeout says, I think I can do better than your decision making on the fly. Some players may think that way. They may not. I'm just thinking out loud here. But the way that the Lakers ending transpired was Westbrook gets the ball, he pushes it, and Embiid, who is an all-NBA defender who can guard multiple positions, ends up slowing the play down into the half court. Now we're under 10 seconds. Westbrook dribbles the ball off his foot. I think at that point, Sheed, this is why Laker fans were upset, that now you call the timeout since you have 7 seconds left still to spare. You can set up that play. If you allow it to continue to play out the way that it was ultimately going to be Westbrook having to do something ridiculous in isolation, and we saw what happened. He took the ball and he threw it into the rim. So there's not like okay, this much time left, this situation, you must call a timeout. It's not white or black. There is a lot of gray area in between, and that Lakers example was such a prominent example of both sides of it that, yes, actually, we understand your reasoning for letting it play out, but when the ball was dribbled off his foot, it felt like maybe you step in there and say, you know what, let's take a moment here. We're not going to get a better look in this current moment than a Westbrook like Hail Mary full of grace. So let's call a timeout. But no, continue to let it happen. And you're watching Laker fans knowing the inevitable doom. It was watching a scene from Final Destination where you could see the water approaching the electrical socket. And you're like, no, don't walk over that way, and he did. And Laker fans like, you got to be kidding me. So a great night is wasted for Russell Westbrook because of that final moment. No one's ever going to remember the night that he had because they ultimately lost. And we're here talking about it now. So it sounds like to me that time, flow, how they performed that night, feel of the game are the qualifications in which these coaches need to assess, because we could sit here and talk about it a week after, right? We can sit here and analyze all day. We have the luxury of knowing the result. But these coaches, Darvin Ham, Tom Thibodeau, and anyone else that's put in this situation have less than half a second to call that timeout before you need to let it go because, right? So they are human, but when the wrong decision is made, that's always going to be the first person you throw under the bus is the coach for not calling a timeout as opposed to the player for doing something. Sure. The coach allowed the player to be in that situation is the way people think. But again, Sheed, I'll let you just put a bow on this conversation. That does it sound like those four qualifications are ultimately what dictate final game situations?
Yeah, for the most part. You just said it, and as I said before, having a triple-double night, I'm going to roll with him. And then, he's an aggressive offensive player, so this is what I'm hoping. As time was left, okay, you coming across half, and as you getting into attack mode, then that's when, he had the eventual turn. But let's say he didn't. So now I got the matchup I want. And so as D. Ham said in that interview, like, look, I didn't want them to call a timeout to maybe bring in 2 more taller defenders maybe, or, to set it up to the point, okay, take Embiid out and bring in another smaller defender. Now you got 5 smalls against 5 smalls. So, no, I didn't want to give them that advantage. And then again, like I said, it's not like anytime Russ, could have went to the basket, got fouled, could have went to the line, went to the basket, draw in the defense, and then, you kick it out to whoever might be in them corners or on that wing. So, yeah, I'm ride with him too. Shit, as you just said, that triple-double night, yeah, people will remember the last play a little bit more for now, but as stat-wise, it's like, goddamn, like, hey, what is he doing? He's doing what we asked him to do. He's got to be doing what we asked him to do. Having a triple-double is not his, it's not his first of the year. So it's like, damn, now it's all coming into play. So now this is all part of the growing woes. So now, let's say it comes back to this play or this scenario in the playoffs or in the big game for us to get to the playoffs, or seeding, as they like to say, the play-in tournament, whatever the fuck it may be. But okay, we had that situation. Now I know what to do more. So if it comes to that, maybe D-Han will call that timeout. Or shit, if somebody got it going now, would anybody have said anything if that was Brian?
No.
If Brian went out there, bust ass, that last second, how Brian do, like, all right, no, y'all right here, move. We all know Brian. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. That's just part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes he gonna hit that shot. Sometimes what? Brian gonna do what? Pass it. So it's all on the situation in that game. And I'm not mad at that one because, shit, I would try to take advantage of that too. And B, yeah, he's a good defender, but if I'm out on that wing, guards are crafty, especially when you're talking about veteran guards. And, for that big to think he can be out there and all down and into the guard and this and that, nah. I'll wait till you get a little bit closer to the basket where I'm more comfortable. I'm going to let you have all this shit and all this out there. I'm going to let you have that.
Well, I was ready to move on topics here real quick, but now I got to follow up. So it does sound like, do you find, like, if Westbrook versus Embiid on an island with the game on the line, are you telling me, who do you think is the mismatch here? Is Embiid, typically it's a big guy can't stay with the small, but Embiid is insanely versatile. And if you somehow beat him off the dribble to get to the rim, he will chase you down and pin that shit on the glass. So do you think Westbrook was the player that had the advantage in this situation? Because I think the opposite, but I'm more so curious now that you gave that answer for you to follow up. Do you think you're willing to live with that because Westbrook's good enough to create his own shot?
In that matchup, yeah, because here's the thing. Now, he might be shooting bad now, but here's the thing that you got to take into play. Even though we were saying, it's only a possession in the game, opposing to taking a three, but let's say that three is that option. That's one option. So now that means Embiid got to be up on him more, where it's even a better chance of going by left or right. Then we all know how Russ is, as we talked about before, high energy. You know what I'm saying? So if I take them 2 or 3 hard-ass dribbles to the paint and I got Embiid on my hip and Russ stops on the dime, pull up mid-range. Russ got a pretty good mid-range. We've all seen that before. Yeah, it's been struggling as of late, but we know that he still can hit it for the game. I'll take that as well. Or he can get to the rim for the lay or dunk it. So in that matchup right there against Embiid, not saying that he can't defend. If it was more of Embiid coming over to help, or if it was a post player looking for that last shot, then yeah, I'm gonna go with that matchup with Joel right there, no doubt, because he's closer to the basket, and that's what he does. If he doesn't block the shot, he's gonna change it. But out there on that perimeter, I gotta go with Russ in that matchup.
Interesting. I want to defend you before people flood into these comments like they tend to do when they disagree with one of your thoughts. You know what they're going to tell you is that Russell Westbrook is one of, if not the worst statistical three-point shooters in the NBA today. Now, we have also seen the treatment today. The treatment that Russell Westbrook gets during a majority of the game that's in the first 3 quarters, opposing defenses will go under the screens on dribble handoffs. They will on pick and rolls. They're going into drop coverage because they just don't care about Russell Westbrook shooting threes. Now, to your credit, since this is a particular situation that even if Westbrook makes a 3, the game is over. And are you just going to allow an NBA player to shoot a wide open 3 because we disrespect his ability to shoot? I don't think Embiid would say yes in that moment. Usually Embiid's the king of like, you can't shoot. I'm not even gonna, I'm gonna turn around to the point of disrespect. But I agree with you that Embiid is knowledgeable of the game, that he knows, yes, Westbrook sucks at threes, but I can't let him get an open one because then I'm going to be responsible for disrespecting a former MVP that can come through in the clutch. He's still an NBA player. He may be struggling, but open shots in those moments are simply unacceptable. So as a result, Joel Embiid likely and did have to guard him at the three-point line, which you usually don't do with Russ. That allows space and opportunity for Westbrook to get by him on the dribble, and then we can have a separate conversation on whether Westbrook could actually finish at the rim with a Joel Embiid chasing him down. I'm still in the camp of no, but I know what's going to happen in the comments, so let me just say before we move on that I don't think Embiid in any world would have allowed Westbrook to shoot a completely wide open three. It would have been the most disrespectful moment in recent NBA history, that if that clock is approaching 0 seconds and Embiid goes, you know what? You want to win this game? Go ahead. And he turns his back on him. That shit would go viral if Russell Westbrook misses it. And it would also go viral if he made it. And Embiid would be on the back page with a clown face and a clown nose on him that he got beat at his own game. So we won't know the situation because Embiid did guard him intensely. But these are always interesting to watch and to get insight from a player that's been in these spots many times. The flow matters, chemistry matters, context of the moment matters, and we should never just say there is one particular way to always succeed in these moments. It depends every time, and the decision has to be made almost instantly. Now, speaking of chemistry, I'd like to segue to our next topic here, which is the Los Angeles Clippers. As we film this, they have another just disappointing national television game. They don't even have the excuse this time of not having Paul George and or Kawhi Leonard. And that's kind of where we're at now.
Right.
Opening night with the Clippers, we saw them play the Lakers, and this was the only time all season that they had their entire roster on the floor at the same time. We saw what they were capable of, and we have seen what they are capable of in the past. You know, leading into the bubble, they were probably the favorites to win the title that year because of what you saw during the regular season and how they performed and what their potential was. But we've been burned by this now several times. That we know how brilliant the individual talents of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and even John Wall's resurgence out there. They have all the individual parts. But because they can never be on the floor at the same time, I'm starting to get Stockholm syndrome here, man, with the Clippers, in that I'm being held captive by them, but I want to continue to go back because I see how good these guys are. And then they go up against an actual legitimate NBA team that has championship aspirations in the Philadelphia 76ers, and they expose all of their flaws when the game gets tight and it goes to individual basketball. Kawhi and Paul George doing their own thing. The 76ers separate. I want to ask you, with this Clippers team, knowing how much star power that they have, how far can star power take you if a team doesn't have, one, chemistry with each other in terms of do we like each other and like playing with each other, and two, the reps of playing with each other during an 82-game regular season. If you only play a handful of times together, we get to the conversation sheet of rust versus rest. The Clippers continue to choose rest being more important because they have players who get hurt a lot. But where's the balance in that, in rust versus rest? Because the Clippers have proved that going hard on one side is not the answer.
Well, call a mechanic. Call a mechanic because the car got stalled in the garage. That's what this is like. And I'm saying that because, as you said, it's no cohesiveness because your main guys haven't been out there on the floor. Who's the first two dudes coming off the bench? We don't know. Why? Because of their roster. That guys been hurt. They just got Paul back. So now, as you said, it's no excuse for them. But excuse me, it kind of sort of is because again, that cohesiveness is real important. Like we seen it with the Lake Show. We seen it with a few other teams in the NBA who went on these win streaks. I think. Was it Boston who went on their second 7-8 game win streak or something like that? So we see it with a lot of the veteran teams. Look, they got that cohesiveness. I know my role. I know what I'm going to do. I know if I'm the sixth man off the bench that I'm coming in at 4 minutes in the first quarter to sub for whoever, the power forward or the center, whatever the case may be. But here we don't know. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're a bad team or nothing like that because they have star power. They do have the guys, but if you don't have that cohesiveness, then you don't have no trust. Then you ain't got no trust, then you're going to have a lot of one-on-ones. Now it's me, make or miss. So I might have 30 points, but I took 35 shots to get those 30 points. And I took 17, 18 free throws to get those 30 points, you know what I'm saying? And then going into the playoffs, if they're lucky enough to be one of the play-in teams or even, get their shit together to make it as a lower seed in the playoffs, it's still that cohesiveness. You got to have that going in there, man, that trust. I know that I'm in this lion's den, this foxhole with my brothers, and then we gonna come up out this motherfucker, high or hell water. I don't have to look to my left or my right. I'm focused on the motherfuckers in front of me that I gotta fight, and it's a sore fight, whatever. Now, if they doing the same thing, we gravy. But they're not having that feeling right now. So, and then you talking about you got to throw in there guys' personalities, individualities, doing this, doing that. It's a young team. You know, how are the younger guys looking up to the vets? Because as a vet, I could tell you, but if I'm still able to get out there and show you, then I got to get out there and show you. You know, lead by example, opposing to more than words. So now they just got to get it back.
So let me follow up with that, because the judging a book by its cover, I haven't been in the locker room with Kawhi Leonard. He could maybe be the most talkative guy when it comes to halftime adjustments and things like that, and we just don't know. But you have a Kawhi Leonard who has star power talent. We all know that, even still after all of his injuries, he's still that guy.
Right.
But you have, during the regular season, you have a Kawhi Leonard who appears to not be very vocal during the games itself, at least for when we see him on camera. That's number one. Number two, he picks and chooses the games that he plays in half the year. Okay, so if you're looking for a leader, you spoke about hearing Anthony Davis on the sideline when he's not playing. He's still involved in the game because he's an assistant coach and barking out defensive assignments. I don't know if I've seen that same type of spirit from Kawhi when he's been shown on camera. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I'm also thinking of inside the NBA, Charles Barkley, when talking about the Clippers, brought up a brilliant point that someone like Norman Powell, who is a good player, a nice talent, on this Clippers team, who when we're filming this today, they're on the second leg of a back-to-back, and their roster tonight is going to be significantly different than the one that they just had on national TV a couple hours before. Norman Powell, in this Charles Barkley example, got his career high one night because the entire team was out, and he was asked to go be the guy. Then they play the second leg of a back-to-back in which Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both play. So he goes from starting to the bench, barely gets any minutes, and he's asked to just catch and shoot. That was his role. So Charles is sitting here saying, these Clippers are all talented guys, and the Clippers did a great job as a front office in getting talented players together. But every single night, their job is different. And Charles is saying, me as a player, like, what do you want from me? We're all not Kawhi Leonard and Paul George that you can just ask us to do 50 different things. You're asking Norm Powell to be catch and shoot one night, then to be the point guard the next, and then you have no reps together. You're just trying to accomplish different things to get through the regular season. And as a result, you get these volatile performances of Norman Powell career high, then 0 points the next night. And he's probably sitting there in the locker room like, what's tonight going to bring? And that's to attest to your answer there of the inconsistency affects you over an 80-game period. And then when you get to the playoffs where you're in those trenches together and you're talking about cutting through the bushes and shit, you know, they don't have that. And they're looking at each other like, who's going to lead us out of the trench here? And I don't think they have that guy.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't. But I'll say this as far as it goes with the Powell situation. Shit happens. It's part of it. I mean, I've seen it happen, you know, when guys do get hurt, you got to step up. And he stepped up. He did his job. And that's what they asked him to do. That's what he's supposed to do. Now comes the professional part. Because like you said, yeah, I might have got 38, 39 out of the 48 minutes and, you know, had my career high in points and rebounding. Great night. But that next night, shit, the guy who I'm replacing, okay, he's back from injury. You know, that's kind of sort of like I was telling a friend of mine. It's like we know a lot of, and we trained a lot of guys the younger guys that play in the NBA and, you know, they're back and forth between here and in the G League. So it's like, look, my guy, he was kind of upset, so I had to talk to him like, look, it's part of it, dog. They're going to call you up when somebody gets hurt or, you know, a guy, he might have a little soreness or it could be for any reason. He's not playing. All right, get your ass in here. We're going to call you up. Either you're going to come in and play some minutes or you're going to be on the bench, but it's going to be that you're going to be that extra body. So then when he come back, all right, we're going to send your ass back down there to the G League where you can get your reps, where you can go ahead and play and get your major minutes. So it's all a mentality thing. That's all part of being that professional. You have to be ready when the coach call on you. Just like when I went to New York for my first game. Here it is. I won an NBA championship, played mad minutes, played against some of the greatest Hall of Fame players and this and that. And Mike Woodson, with a minute or something left on the clock, came down there to the bench and asked me, "Hey, Sheed, you want to go in?" All right, yeah, I'm in there. You got to be a professional. No, I'm not here to show you up. You know what I'm saying? How would we have all looked at Powell if he was asked that night to go in there, play 35 minutes, and then that next night he's in the papers bitching and complaining? No, how would we have looked at him? No, you got to be professional, young fella. Yeah, granted, your time will come. You know what I'm saying? This is you just starting to do this. It's the veterans, they've been here, so it's the coach, you know what I'm saying? And we paying him all this money, so yeah. If he's available to play, guess what we gonna do? We gonna have his ass out there on that court. And young fella, you gonna have to take that back seat for the night. You gotta be professional though. Still come to the games, like you just said a second ago though. Wow, AD, what is he doing on the bench? Hey guys, watch pick and roll. As you said, barking out defense assignments. Well, that's what you got to do that as a young fella. You got to have that bench energy. You know what I'm saying? You still can get paid off of that. People don't realize this. In the NBA, you can get paid for a lot of shit. You can get paid, of course, for being a good player, top-notch player. You can get paid for being a good locker room dude where you're bringing nothing but positive energy around a team, and especially to the younger guys on the team as that veteran. And you can have a lengthy NBA career and get paid some money and shit. Luckily, end up winning the championship. I've seen it happen to guys. I've seen it. They don't have all that NBA talent, but they have that locker room talent. So, and that's being a professional. That's all part of it. You know what I'm saying? Guys can make careers of that. Let's just say, you know, now I'm speaking hypothetically here, y'all. Let's just say we have a guy, a good young player. Okay, he's playing behind, let's say, an all-star caliber guy of like a KD or a Jason Tatum. All right, well, you ain't really going to play too much, but if I'm a good dude, guess what? I can have a career with that organization. No matter if that shit is dealing with press, I can be radio, I can be TV, I can be PR. You know what I'm saying? You can, all from being a good guy. That's one thing I'm telling y'all that happens out there, and I've seen it happen for a fact.
So to Norman Powell's credit, this was more of a Charles Barkley creating a hypothetical situation for him, in that if I was Norman Powell, like you're asking me to do this one night and the next, and no wonder this team can't gel. To Norman Powell's credit, he did go out there and he did exactly what he was asked. So he delivered on his part. But I think Charles is more so just speaking to why the Clippers' success has not translated to even a conference finals appearance with this all-in team and franchise that they have. What is not working here? Because on paper, they should be coming out of the Western Conference every single season if they were healthy. But because you have the volatility of Norman Powell and Luke Kennard, and Terrence Mann just had his career high in a regular season, and then the next night he's a DNP coach's decision, I think there's such volatility with these Clippers and the demands for them, that, yeah, they can do their jobs, and they're doing it well because they're professionals. They're checking those Rasheed Wallace boxes, but there are other teams in the NBA that also have professionals that are doing what's asked of them, and because they are more fluid and have chemistry and have spent 6 months learning what they're able to perfect and what their liabilities are, they don't have to use the playoffs as a testing ground because they know they're already there. Right. I don't know if the Clippers have that advantage. And while many of us think, well, they'll figure it out because they're that good, and you put them in that situation, they'll figure it out. You know what, Sheed? They haven't yet. So, yeah. All right. Speaking of frustration and chemistry, I want to start this next topic by once again reminding everyone that I'm a Knicks fan, so I have to endure these games. And my opinion certainly it might be different than others, but the frustration Sheed, of watching Julius Randle is approaching John Starks levels for me. And there's a reason why I'm gray at this age so quickly. John Starks has a lot to do with that. But Julius Randle is very quickly coming up this. And let me give a little bit of context to this, because every time I speak about Julius Randle, it sounds like I'm being negative. But I'm being negative only because I'm frustrated. And I'm frustrated because of his talent and his potential. And he puts up monster box scores. He just did something a week and a half ago that only Patrick Ewing has done in Knicks history with a 40-15 game. So it's not a lack of production, and it's not underachieving. But because Tom Thibodeau is the coach and Julius Randle is bully ball and he's a grinder and he exerts so much energy in getting these points and putting up these stats. But by the time we get to the fourth quarter, I'm starting to wonder, is he out of gas? Or does he simply just can't live up to the moment? Because at the end of these fourth quarters, he turns the ball over. He misses free throws left and right. He doesn't look like he wants to be in the situation. He has horrendous body language in that he starts yelling at referees. He gets teed up. He turns the ball over unsolicited. And I'm sitting here pulling my hair out, being another example of a guy that just did this amazing performance that no one's going to talk about because his biggest enemy seems to be himself. So the curious case of Julius Randle not being able to close. I want to ask you, Rasheed, not saying that you weren't able to close, but why? Why can't Julius Randle close games?
You got to keep fighting and focus on a lot of the things that you do well, because that's what's going to lift you up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I might not be able to do this or do that, and damn, I got to work on it. So if, like, okay, I might not be able to shoot threes well, but shit, I'll knock a mid-range down right in your face. I'll, dunk on you, layup, whatever. I'm good with that. I'm more satisfied with that. Okay, I'll shoot a three. It's something I got to work on. It's just that confidence level. And I would have to say maybe it could be a defensive thing as well. So if you look at the first three quarters, maybe this team is letting the Knicks come down, letting Jay Brunson come down, set the table for Jay Randle to where all he got to do is one or two dribbles, I'm to the basket, or it's a jump shot, and it's a little easier. So maybe the team is taking away that point guard to now Jay Randle got to handle the ball in his hand. So that makes him a different option, a different player, because I feel as though he's better in movement. As you said, he's a big, strong, physical player. He's hella athletic. So to me, he would be better if I'm on the move. I don't have to dribble no more than once, get that pass, one dribble, no more than two, I'm to the basket. So maybe the defense is taking away the point guard or taking away the key part of the play. In fact, throw that in there where it could be out of gas. As you said, if we know that we could bang him with this double team. So why is that? That means they're taking away something else there where the Knicks were successful at, and now this is what we know we can do with this guy. It's like, shit, if you know a guy can't pass, well, I'm going to go ahead and send a double team at him. I'm going to do this, step up on him. Just like, shit, if you know a guy can't shoot, what you going to do? Give him that dare shot like you was talking about with Joel Embiid does. I'm going to give you that dare shot. So that fourth quarter action, it could be, the defense determined it, all right, we're going to cut your water off. That's the same shit we used to do. I used to tell all my young boys I played against, Zach, Jermaine, Jason Maxill, Bonzi, all of them, when either they got traded or I got traded, and, we come along the path for them first three quarters, I'm going to let you rock and roll, bro. You better get as many motherfucking points as you can in that first, second, and third quarter, because come that fourth quarter, cutting all that water, choking you, Johnny O, I'm gonna choke you. No more the open shots, no more you just in the touchy shit. No, now I'm gonna really fucking foul you if I'm in that situation. So there's no telling what's going on inside the head of Jay Randle, but I would have to say, as with him being a veteran though, you got to focus a little bit more on the shit that you do well, especially in in the streaks that you guys been having. Let's say you've been running the floor well. All right, well, pick that shit up a little bit more, because now that's going to make up for the shit where you fuck up. You know what I'm saying? You might come down and kick the shit off your leg and it's a turnover, but just think, you running in transition, now I'm back fast enough to get that interception for us to go down the other end. So focus on a lot of the things that you are doing well. If you're shooting free throws well, make sure you get to the line. You could be setting screens well, getting guys open real good. There's always different facets of the game opposing to just one. A lot of people focus on that one thing. Oh, if I'm not scoring, it fucks everything up for a lot of players. If I can't get this layup, if I can't score, if I go 1 for 12, 1 for 13, you know, shit, I had a bad game, I had a bad day. No, it's other shit that you could do to be successful on that floor for your team still to win. Everyone depends on offense too much. So for him, focus on the other things that you do well.
Okay. I hope it's as simple as that. I hope he watches this, because getting involved in the offense without you don't always need the ball in your hands. And he's not one of those guys that's like a microwave scorer, in that if he's not touching the ball, then he's not he shouldn't be out there. No, like Randall serves he can crash the glass. He's a beast on the boards, and I hear you. And it may be taking some of that burden off his shoulders, like Jalen Brunson's been able to do that. RJ Barrett coming back into the lineup has been able to do that. But man, it's just over and over again on these national TV games against the actual legit squads. He always finds a way to have the ball in his hands with 8 seconds on the shot clock, and I gotta go. And then this shit happens over and over.
That's by design. It could be by design, depending on who that defensive team is.
So a conversation for another day. We like to wrap up, indubitably. We like to wrap up our program with Sheed's Inspired segment here of going through numbers in NBA history, meaning players that have worn a number. I like to have Rasheed build a team based on that number. And we've kind of gone through the obvious ones here, the 23s, the 34s. I had a little bit of difficulty last night finding a number that is in between, because now Sheed's on to me a little bit that if I pick a small number, he's going with these small ball lineups. If I go with number 50, he's sitting here saying, what guard do you know wore number 50? It's all going to be big guys. So I think I have done a pretty decent job of finding a combination of both. And today's number sheet is number 20. And at the end of this show, I'm going to hopefully have Rasheed have the rosters of each number built out. I'm going to have him pick a champion based on the best players to wear that specific number. So with that said, today's number is number 20. Would you like some?
I have some runner-up too.
Okay. So, I mean, there's some obvious ones. So let's knock out the obvious ones. It's the backcourt. Who's your backcourt?
Wow. Well, I got one name in there that I know that you probably won't have, but again, it's my guy old head. So I'm gonna start y'all off like this. For me, my number one is the glove.
Yeah, obviously.
My glove at the point, right? My two will be my old head who was a facilitator and also a pretty good scorer, would be Gene Banks.
Wait, hold on. All right. I know you're up to some shit. I know you're up to some shit.
Philadelphia.
Okay. I know you're up to some shit when you start explaining what the player did before you actually name him, and you're like trying to do a sales pitch. All right? The glove was the obvious. And again, for those of you watching this, it's not like who's the best number one and who's the fifth best player. We're doing a 1 through 5, meaning a backcourt and a front court. Gary Payton is going to be your starting point guard all day, every day. That was the easy one. But there are two bona fide, obvious Hall of Famers that have worn the number 20 before that played exactly the 2 guard. And you go with Gene Banks? Okay, now you got to explain yourself.
Yeah, Gene Banks. That's that Philly connection. Plus, I also want to reach out to our fans. Like, look, there was a lot of other great Hall of Fame players that played in this game besides Michael Jordan, besides Magic Johnson. You know what I'm saying? There was other players. So that's what it is. A little bit of trivia for them. Look it up. Gene Banks, great player from Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So my 3 is of course I'm gonna go with the crafty lefty out of San Antonio, Manu.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put him at my 3. And reason being, Manu could shoot. He has that good overall team game. He's not necessarily a greedy player, so putting him at the 3, you can put it on the floor. He will pass it. He will take that open shot, and he will develop things for other players. So I give Mano, he's pretty crafty. And against, playing against him for so many years as well. My number 4, or I should say, the 4th position with number 20 would be LaFonso Ellis.
Whoa.
LaFonso is the big man.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Fonz wore 20. He was a big man. To me, Fonzo Ellis had that good attitude. He was definitely that veteran player that you could count on night in, night out to get you those scrappy rebounds, to be scrappy and to be a hell of a defender. And plus, again, somebody I want y'all to look up. And then for me, my 5th, my guy, Maurice Lucas. Maurice Lucas was a tough, tenacious defender. Played with the Trailblazers in the 70s, early 80s. Won a chip with them. And he helped change the game as that power forward on both sides of the ball, with being that versatile power forward / center who can guard some guards and put it on the floor a time or two. Not necessarily, a KD style where I'm dribbling at you, but yeah, he will catch that bitch in transition 1-2. I'm going to the rim or I'm going to the line. So,
Rasheed.
And then I know all of y'all are like, oh, what? Oh, why didn't he say Ray Allen? Why didn't he say Ray Allen?
You played with him.
Ray Allen wore the number 20 for a couple years. His number is 34.
What? No. Hold on. No. I'm not going to let you do this because you did this with Shaq. You did this with Shaq in the Miami Heat. That you still said, okay, Shaq was still, but he wasn't the Magic Shaq. He wasn't LA Shaq. But you put Shaq on that team because you still thought at that point he was dominant, right? Ray Allen on the Boston Celtics was still Ray Allen.
No question about it. But shit, for me, Ray Allen, I've known Ray Allen to wear that number 34. When at UConn, when he first came into the league, to me, that's his stamp. That's his staple. Yeah, he wore number 20 and eventually will end up winning a chip with Boston and had a good career after that. But he couldn't wear 34 in Boston. Why?
Paul Pierce.
Because of Paul. Yeah. So every other team that he played on, why couldn't he wear 34 in Miami? I'm not sure.
No, he had it in Miami, didn't he?
He had 34 in Miami? I'm not sure. Don't get me.
He was 34. He was 34. He was 34 in Miami. He was 20 on Boston. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, for his whole career, that's like, okay, right now, for my whole career, it was number 30. But the year after we won it, when we was defending our title, I wore 36. It's like, okay, I wore it, but everyone knows me to be for what number? A lot of the people, a lot of fans out there, yeah, they might, or younger viewers might know Ray Allen for that, that Boston wearing that number 20. But shit, guys our age, we know Ray Allen for the Milwaukee days. Milwaukee days where he was killing it. It wasn't number 20. So that's why I didn't have him in my top 5 with the number 20. Yeah, he made the list because shit, that's fucking Ray Allen, one of the best shooters in the game. But I had to go with guys who actually wore 20 for a majority of their career, not just, 2-3 years.
No Doug Collins, no Ray Allen. We get LaFonso Ellis. I'm sure glad we picked this number. Interesting. So the Philly connection.
I grew up watching Fonz. That's why I liked him. As I said, he was a shit talker. And he was a tenacious defender, man. And for me, I hang my hat on defense. So for y'all don't know, when I do pick a lot of these teams, I'm not picking them for their offensive caliber. I'm going more with defense. Okay.
This is you are entitled to your opinion. All I can do is be your muse and be your arbitrator, if you will.
And I left my guy off the list too. And he wore number 20 his whole career, but I had to go with more of the obvious with that as far as the point. But I left my man Damon Stoudemire off the list. That's my guy. right? Brian Shaw.
Mo Lucas too. Maurice Lucas.
I named Mo Lucas.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
My fault.
And
No.
and my guy too, which I thought he was pretty good, and man, he always used to kick ass on the wing, was Michael Ray Richardson.
Interesting conversation. I would have bet
Always gotta be.
I would have gone broke. I thought Ray Allen was going to be the first name out of your mouth, and even. I mean, that's why I like doing this segment, is because there's always a little surprise in there with you for a separate reason. And you know what? This is Sheed's team. This is not
crowd some salt up in there. Why? You know that.
No, I get it. There, bro. That's what makes this segment and this show unique, is we get a different point of view than from someone that played in a different era, that was born in a different age than the majority of people that consume content on YouTube and on the internet. And that's why it's unique and different. So that's why I enjoy doing it as well. So you know what? We'll call it on that note for this episode of That's What Sheed Said. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, followed the channel, you enjoy this kind of talk, I still have 2 to 3 topics, which I didn't even get to in this episode, which I will next time. They call that a teaser in the business. So if you want to know what those questions were, we'll be back. Same time, same place next week.
Sure. Same bat time, same bat channel.